Hello, welcome to another BLENDERSUSHI live noding video session. Today, I will be trying to do to recreate the matrix camera system. For the last couple of live noding, I've been talking about matrix, and it's kind of complex in the way. So today, I think I'll try to do something a little bit simple and fun and talk about Matrix. Remember movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves in it, and it has this really interesting camera setup. It's basically an array of cameras that goes surrounding the action scene, like this one. And so I was thinking, hey, maybe let's try to recreate that setup in Blender, but this time instead of using any scripting or um, um, like a manual setup, we will try to do it using animation nodes and Sverchok. Alright, it's gonna be simple, and let's see, let's just do it. So the basic idea, of course, we're gonna be using like a circle. Let's see, circle like that. We're gonna put the cameras, place every cameras on the circle, like within certain distance, and we want to make sure all the cameras will follow the circle if it's rotated. We don't know how many cameras we're gonna have. Yeah, so let's just do that. Since animation nodes doesn't have circle yet, that's why I'm using Sverchok. Sverchok is good for kind of mesh creations. So let's create a circle real quick. Viewer node, viewer bmesh mk2, that's the one we're gonna use. Vertices and plug in the edges. So this will create a circle like that. We can control the radius, and we could have like a viewer draw as well, just to draw the points. So these will control the number of cameras in the scene. Degrees, leave it at 360. Radius we can control, and then with the positioning, I'll just use empty in the scene. Place it in the center for now. I'll save this. So it's gonna be ends, Sverchok, matrix camera. And I want this locator to control the position of this circle. So in Sverchok, let's do matrix in. Actually, just objects in. Select our empty, and then pipe in the matrix. Okay. Did I make something? Aha, okay. We have to do that to the viewer draw as well. Interesting. That's actually kind of silly of me doing that. That's not what you want. You actually want to that's the empty. We have get selection. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that hiccup. So that's kind of what you want. We can scale the empty. At the moment you see me playing back the timeline, because Sverchok doesn't update when the timeline is not running. It will update, but not in this case. It doesn't seem to update the matrix. So, but if the playback is running, it's no problem. With the empty, let's show it as a circle plane axis. Probably no, arrows. Yeah, arrows. That's more useful. So that's gonna be our camera setup. Next, I'm gonna save this real quick. I'll save it. So we have our Sverchok setup. Next, we just switch to animation nodes, and then we're gonna create duplicates of this camera. Before I do that, I wanna explain a little bit about Blender camera. So if you have multiple camera like that, in order to switch the active camera, the active camera is the one with black, like a black triangle like that. This is actually correspond to the scene. So you have the scene and you have this camera, and if we switch the camera here, the active camera is the one that's going to be rendering the scene. So keep that in mind. For our example, we might be just rendering like an animated GIF, but if you want to render out your scene, this is important to know. So what we are trying to do is to create a bunch of duplicates of cameras. The array of cameras will be placed on each point of the circle, and then we're gonna use animation nodes as well to switch the camera. So let's do that. So we will use object instancer. Okay, get our camera. We're gonna have a copy full objects. I debug this. Actually, copy full objects. Yeah, I'll copy each object, but so we're gonna have like a bunch of cameras. How many do we need? It depends on the circle. So we're gonna grab the mesh data of the circle. The circle is called alpha 0. It's from Sverchok. By default, it's called the alpha 0. Use world space. Yes, we only care about the number of vertices of the circle. So plug that in. So we're gonna have this get list length node get created automatically. So we're gonna, and then we will loop through each object's copy. Loop through objects, and then now we actually have a bunch of cameras get created. It's get named like that. If it's using the same data block, it will be doing that, but we actually let's debug loop real quick, because I want to display the data. So that's our camera copies. What really want is something more like a real object, so copy of full object. So now we have proper camera. The default camera should be named just camera. How many do we have? 34? 34. Let's say we have like 30. Let's say we just created like 24 camera. Now we have camera 1 to camera 24. Let's save this. Back to animation nodes, we're gonna place our camera on the points of circle. Object transform. We don't need to use the matrix. You can do that if you want more control. For each object, we're gonna place it on the points of the vertices. In order to do that, we will also pipe in the circle points like that, and place it. Now we have the cameras almost ready. We want to hide the lines. Should we leave it? No, just hide the lines. Select object instancer, tap U, hide relationship lines. Okay, nice. Next to do is, let's say, we want to each camera to point. So with object instancer, the instance of objects, we often need to care about the rotation, the axis of each object, where it's pointing to, and the kind of the up axis, the front axis. We need to be aware of all of them. For this case, we just, I think if we plug in the vector into the rotations, we get, it's almost there. With camera, let's see our camera, let's reset our camera. You see our camera, it's pointing down the -z, and the app vector is the y. I believe that should be correct. Okay, yep, that's correct, and then it's pointing outward from the circle. We're just gonna flip it like that. Now we actually have our matrix camera. Almost ready. File, save as. Let's have a bunch of objects, maybe just Suzanne head, smooth it, shade smooth, and then subdivide it, and then we have probably torus, and probably cylinder, floating in 3D scenes, just some kind of composition, so we know where we are in the 3D space. We can hide the grid real quick. Grid, display, hide the grid floor. Okay. Oops. Okay. So everything's good. Now we want to see through the camera, and in Blender you can have like a multiple, you can have like a layout on anything. So I just create another like a layout, sub layout windows, and then I'll create another 3D view here, and I want to look through the active camera. View active camera, active camera. So that's our active camera. Here we want to hide the relationship lines and hide the grid floor as well. Okay, like that. Save it. And so that's our camera view. Next, we want to switch the camera procedurally. like that. You can do like a clever way to do this. You can use Python script that's actually cleverly get the list of all camera except for that one camera. But for now, I'll just do something simpler. I'll use like a grouping. Yeah, I'll group the cameras that we need. So we can actually select all by type camera in Blender. So you have this menu. So it will select all the camera, and then I will just group it. It will of course select the default camera as well. We don't want the default camera to be selected. We just get rid of it from the group. Remove it from the group. So we have our group ready, group of camera, and we can select it from using nodes. So that group, and we have this objects. How many objects in the list? We can check it out, but don't worry about it. Now the next thing we want to do is just create a script node, and then this is going to be the camera switcher. It's going to be a super simple script. Basically, we want a way to switch the camera using animation nodes. So we're gonna use a little bit of Python. So I'm switching the camera, right? And then we can tell which Python code that does that. That's actually what's controlling the camera, active camera in the scene. So I can just copy this script, and with our camera switcher script ready, we just need to point the correct object. So let's see, let's hide this. The input is gonna be object, right? It's expecting object. I can tell from this PPY data object. It needs to be a single camera, like a single object. Let's grab our script, camera switcher script, and pipe in the object. Now let's see if this is actually working. It's not working yet because I purposely this error. So this gonna do script that switch camera. You can be more clever with this script, of course, but we're just gonna make it super simple. So PPY data objects. This is gonna be our cam, my cam. This is the variable name. It's gonna be the objects, right? My cam. So all we need to do is just type in my cam there. Now our matrix camera is working. See the camera? You see over here? The scene camera is switching. Start from 0. 0 is camera 24, 23, 22, 1. So it's kind of in reverse in the group. You can of course reverse the list or kind of slice the list or reverse the list order using one of these nodes: shuffle, reverse, slice, shift. So camera name string. Yeah, so I think it's almost ready. We're almost ready for everything, but except that if we go under or over, you see it's kind of stopped. It couldn't find the object, couldn't find the camera. We only have like 24 cameras now. So we can use something called modulo or modulus. With modulo, we can kind of loop. If you think of animated GIF, let's say you have 24 frames and you want to loop the animated GIF. You want it to go from frame 0 or frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 24 and then back to 1. You can use modulo for that. So modulo, let's say if you have like 24 and you have number that input that goes from 0 and then over 24, it goes back. You see the output goes back to 0. This is kind of like a basic math function. We can use this for our purpose. So the number of our camera, plug in there, and we can pipe in frame number into there. So now if I scrub the camera, it goes to 23, 24, back to 0. So it's going to be doing what we need. And then we just need to plug in the modulo into the index like that. So, and then just play back. So we have our matrix camera setup ready. It's actually that easy. It cannot be any easier than this. This is matrix camera array ready for you to use. 24 cameras looping around the center. If you notice as well, since we are using this directions to rotations and we have the vector of each points pipe it in, there's one thing, there's the guide here. This is the kind of like the up vector of the camera. At this moment, each camera up vector is pointing up in the Z, which is actually what you want because you don't want the audience to feel like a sick. If the camera is pointing in all directions, it's going to be really confusing. Let's suppose you want to have the up vector of camera pointing more like respecting this axis. You could do that kind of, maybe you can have like another empty, just parent it to this empty, and then it's going to be the up vector, and whatever direction of that we just plug into the guide. So if we make the circle upside down, the camera will correspond to that. For now, we don't need to worry about that. So we have our matrix camera ready. This is ready for shooting like a new matrix movie probably. Since we are like we have this all in real time, let's say we could maybe create light, create some line point, switch this to texture material. Put this with like a yellowish light, another light over there with a pink, another light, probably blue. Yeah, so this is our matrix camera. Okay, let's smooth this. Smooth this guy as well. Save this real quick. Oh yeah, by the way, with the script, like I said, you can modify the script so it's a little bit more clever. At this point, of course, not this camera switcher. So our script is just like that. For every frame or every changes, it will switch the camera correspond to the index number that we pipe it in. Suppose we go back to Sverchok and then if we change the number of vertices here, maybe 12. So at this moment it's still working. Seems to be working, but not really. Let's say we have like 36 camera. See, it's not working properly. That's because our group, it's kind of losing the group. Yeah, so we need to recreate the group each time. Select the camera again, and then group it again, and then remove the default camera from the group. And now I think it should be working, except for the number vertices number that's kind of lost. It goes up, seems to go up. Let me quickly investigate what's going on. Let's debug drawer, pipe in that's the frame, that's the modulo 2731, seems to be correct. Probably our group as well, we have to do two things, kind of regroup our cameras and then change the group. Yeah, now should be working properly. So that's something it's kind of like just like slight modifications with a Python script. So it's what you really want is for it to cleverly select only the cameras within certain name, probably just your camera, just the copy of each camera, the least copies of all camera objects, and it should skip the default camera, so that whenever you make changes to back to the Sverchok and makes changes to the circle, the number of circle, it will adjust everything and then correspond accordingly. So you don't need to recreate the group and then switch the group and those kind of thing. So that's just a one homework for me, I guess for you if you wanna do that yourself as well. So yeah, we can now look at the result. Yeah, it works perfectly. It's the array of matrix camera recreated using animation nodes and Sverchok. Hopefully you like this one and find this useful. You can give it a try yourself. And of course, the main point here is you use less of the Python scripting, and then you kind of visually program everything here using Node 3, and that saves a lot of brain processing. Although of course you can set it up using just Python and maybe PyNode or PyDrivers and whatnot, but this is, for me, this is much clearer, much simpler. And if you give this to artists, the artists can quickly change the setup of the camera, and then they can place the camera somewhere, and then you're good to go. So that's the main point that I want to get across here. So until next time, hopefully this has been useful.